Peace. This is a rebroadcast of the Ash Your Oldhead podcast with Justice Raji, featuring my guest, Anthony Deloney. Thank you for listening and enjoy. Peace. Peace. This is the Ash Your Oldhead podcast with Justice Raji. I'm here with my guest, Anthony Deloney. Deloney, what's up?
What's up, my guy? Thanks for coming over.
Thank you for having me, being here, or welcome me over. So we'll just get into it. Could you just give me somebody you want to give props or reverence to before we get started, man?
Man, props. Ooh, let's see. I'm not going to be talking about my work too much during this next hour, but props to Tony Hobson Sr., basically a pioneer of service in North and Northeast Portland. Just really been doing it right for a long time. And, there's people like myself I was thinking about the other day. I've been working here for 22 years. And there's not a lot of folks. I just saw somebody on Facebook saying, where are the black people at? I don't never see them. And that is not my issue. I see all of us every day. Indeed. And I'm blessed to say at no point in my 22 years have I had a non-person of color as my supervisor. So I don't know how many people can really, look at that. And not that that's a bad thing. I'm just telling y'all.
It's a feature. It's a feature. Man, it's a reality. That's
something special that I look and see that a lot of people don't have that opportunity. And Mr. Hobson has, made a lot of things accessible and real and live in a Portland black life that not a lot of people are able to do. So shout out to Mr. Hobson.
Word up. Thank you.
Sir.
Appreciate that. And cool. So the first question I always start with is, can you share a principle or a standard, something that you live by, that just one thing that you think is important to how you move through the world?
That's a good question. I thought about this. It's a simple thing, but I think we overlook it a lot. It's in prioritizing and actually calendaring and writing things down that are important to you, right? I tell people a lot, don't tell me what's important to you. Pull out your calendar, right? And that'll show me what's important to you. And I guarantee that on your calendar, you'll have all the places you need to be for work, right? And all your business stuff. But I bet you don't have play with your son on there. Right. And those are the kind of things that I learned over time, that, our time is the most precious thing that we have. And so, a lot of us get caught up in this committee and that committee and all that. And that's great. I mean, we need, people that are active in our community doing different things. But at the end of the day, your family, leisure time, date night, all those different things that, you need to do with your spouse and with your kids and with people that you love, and reaching out. And that's probably the biggest thing that I've shifted into in the last 5 or 6 years, is really sitting down and saying, man, I need to holler at some of these dudes that you value and that you respect, and you really have to calendar it out, or it just won't happen. It'll keep getting pushed back. And so, that whole thing about prioritizing even the little things that we think are little, right, are important. And so making sure you write it down, calendar it, make it official.
Did you have a come to Deloney moment, or something that made you crystallize that value?
It's funny. I went to it was like a time management training probably 15, 16 years ago. And I remember that piece of it. In fact, it was the training was I didn't know it was kind of a complete coincidence. It was given by one of my friend's dad. And so, once I saw that, and then, just to be real, like, we've had a tough couple of years here, right? In terms of losing young people to illness, to, violence, different things like that. And so all of a sudden, you start looking around and it's like, hey man, these are, you're at that place in your life. I'm 45. Right. And so you start realizing like, hey, man, at the end of the day, there's people out here that you love that, you don't connect with as much. And at the end of the day, you don't want to ever have regrets about, man, I wish I really got to pop it with him. And I really do believe in giving people their roses while they're here. Yeah. And so that was one of the biggest things is like, man, sitting down and really prioritizing relationships and free time and really just going out. And if it's nothing more than just having lunch, right? Yeah. You feel good that we've connected on that level and kept this relationship important.
All right. I think that's interesting because there's thing that comes up sometimes is being intentional.
Yeah.
And also the reality that you're not promised that someone's going to be around.
Facts.
And I've found sometimes that it throws people off a little bit. We're like, yeah, man, let's get a coffee. And they're kind of like, oh, yeah, sure. And I'm like, nah, really, let's really get a coffee, man. Like, 45 minutes. I'm not, there'll be, and I think, part of it's fatigue. Some of it is you got a lot of people got responsibilities. And it's like, nah, man, I'm just going to holler at you for 40 minutes or something, man. And then if I don't see you again for a while, we'll catch up.
I mean, I look at it like, man, that's why we work. Right. So you can afford the time and money to go have a coffee with your friends and not the other way around. And I think sometimes we prioritize it so wrong. It's like we work and we fill up our calendars and then whatever is left. Right. We're trying to sparse that out to the people that we love about. And that's one of the things that really is been pushed at the forefront just in the last couple of years for me.
All right. Thank you.
Of course.
So, relationships, broadly defined.
Yeah.
Is there something that you understand better now, where you're at in life, that you maybe didn't do so well as a younger man?
So I still consider myself young for all y'all out there. Nah.
Well, like I said, younger. You know what I'm saying? Because there's young and there's younger.
I'm messing with you.
Indeed.
I think I'm still growing, right? You learn something new every day. I've always, I said I wasn't going to talk about work, but here's one of the principles, right? When you're working with kids, right, one of the things we learn is that whole, the 3-to-1, right? When you're working with kids, you need 3 positives for every 1 negative, right? Because those negatives can be so heavy for somebody that you almost have to build up goodwill before you can deliver some of the bad news and different things like that. So I've always used that strategy. In fact, I think my own strategy has probably been more like 6 or 7 to 1, right, versus 3 to 1, because it's important, right? But I would say that I think that is universal. Right, I think that's not just great for kids, and I think that's something that works with any relationship that you have. If the only time, right, you ring my line is on some nonsense or on some drama, I don't really want to answer that no more, right? Because your ratio is whack. Right, you know what I'm saying? And likewise, though, it's one of the things that so when I'm delivering information, and I don't have to wait for the drama. I want to tell you some good stuff, man. I learned that even from teachers. Like, man, I'm calling home not because you're in trouble. I'm calling home because your kid's doing great, right? I think those are the things that translate into, man, a marriage, right? Into relationships with your own kids, relationship with your parents, different things like that. So you really have to be, and you said it earlier, intentional about making sure you give that love, you give that positive, you give those things that people say they don't. Well, I don't need nothing. I don't. No, everybody needs that. They love to hear it. They love to hear, hey man, I just like the way you're doing this. You know what I'm saying? I like your shoe game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Simple things like that go a long way. And no man is an island. And to be honest, the people that say that the most, I don't need that. Man, they need it the most.
Yeah.
They really do. And so I really try to be intentional about giving the love, because we already know, life is life. So negative things are going to come, but I feel that the more love that I give on the front end, it makes it easier to come with that negative, because you know who I really am.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything with like those experiences with building different types of relationships in a lot of different spaces? Anything that you've picked up as even a tactic or I do this intentionally to kind of at least extend the bridge? Like, is there any? Any wisdom you can give.
Wisdom,
you can give on making a connection with people.
I try to be a straight shooter. You know what I mean? I mean, that a lot of times we try to, finesse things and everything else. But at the end of the day, people, I think, definitely want to hear the truth. But even when you're saying the truth, it's important to say it's my truth. This is how I see it, right? And really owning, this is my opinion. This is what I see. I don't know everything. I could be wrong. But I think that, telling your truth, that you see it, is really important, and not necessarily giving people exactly what they want to hear, because again, that doesn't move the needle at all. So I think that I would say that's probably one of the bigger things, man. It's just really owning it. This is me. This is from my heart, and hopefully because we've done our 3 and 4 and 5 to 1,
we've had that.
You can receive
we've had
that
trust. You can building that trust that when I come at you with the other thing, you're not going to take it. Hopefully, but I mean, we've all had that. Got that buddy that no matter what you tell him,
hear none of that.
Man, you tripping. Why you always try to take me down a notch? It's like, yo, I love you, man. I'm just letting you know what I see. Them sneaks is whack, man. The joints is bogus. Why'd you buy those?
Boo.
Word up. So, third question, then we'll make a pivot. Yeah. So what's just something that's really important for you right now in your life? Just something that's...
I'm glad you asked that. Community, man. Community. I think it's always been a passion of mine, right? You don't stay at the same place for this long without passion. But I think it's branched off even more into different ways. And so we were talking earlier about the Numberz radio station that we started last year, and people really understanding that this has never been about music per se, right? It's been about building more community. So that came out of the idea, and again, I'm for all 22 years here, I've driven 85% of the same route. Right? Seriously, I've lived in about 3 houses during that time, all kind of in the same area, pathway, right? And it probably was 3 or 4 years ago. You don't notice, right? You don't notice necessarily your kid grew, right? Because you see them every day, right? Somebody else comes like, damn, he done got big, right? Those are the ones, right? And so I hadn't noticed how much our neighborhood had changed. Right. It just slowly drop by drop, piece by piece, it had changed. Right. And so for me, it was sad, man. I'm telling you, I pulled to the side of the road and just looked around and I was like, man, where am I? Right. And all of a sudden you got people jogging and walking their dogs looking at you strange, like really like, what you doing over here, bro? You know what I'm saying? I mean, we know that look. And man, it crushed me. This is literally, I mean, I'm born and raised here. I don't count the 5 years in Cali. You know what I'm saying? That
5 years California.
I don't count those years. But I'm born and raised here, and to have people look at you sideways because we don't fit, right? I'm off Kirby. You know what I'm saying? I'm off a commercial, and they looking at me strange. And so, it really was kind of a huge moment for me where I said, we don't have necessarily, like we can get out and with a picket line and say, give us our land back. Yeah, that's probably not happening, right? I mean, gentrification, we're not in the midst of it. It happened, right? And so for me, I think the whole idea about community came about with this number. It's like, okay, well, maybe we don't have the same physical communities, but maybe we can create our own. I mean, if you look on Facebook and different places, all of a sudden you see people able to talk and conversate, and it's not always positive necessarily, but you got a lot of people talking and sharing information, and that's exactly how I viewed the Numberz. I want to get you in with music, and because we love music and we make the best music on earth, I have no problem saying that. Every good piece of music comes from us, right? And then is a derivative of us,
Indeed.
Right? I think, but that's how we get on board. And now that I got your ear, I want to tell you about man, they hiring at the post office.
Right.
I want to tell you to go get your colon checked. Yeah. I want to tell you about, diabetes screening and weatherizing your home, right? Once we got your ear. And that's just another way for us to build community. And so for me, that's really been a passion project of mine. Nobody's making money. It's all volunteers. But it's important, and we've got a lot of great feedback around it, and it's also featuring people from the community, right? Everybody can't be a DJ. Everybody don't know how to scratch. Everybody can't rap. Everybody can't sing, right? But everybody has music that they like, and so one of the features that we do, we find people that are dope in our community and tell them to put together their best playlist, and we feature that because everybody can be a part of this.
All right. Yeah. So what was the what was the kind of the energy behind, or I guess the moment that led you to the idea of involving community members in that way? Because I feel like that's a really
it's
interesting way to do
right?
it, and I like it.
And so it's kind of two piece, right? Like one is, man, we don't have a lot of money, so I'm not going to be in the booth like what's my man on Do the Right Thing.
Oh yeah, man. Like it's his
right
8 hours a day,
right?
10 hours.
We don't have nobody to sit in that booth and say, "Hey, what's going on?" We don't have that. So out of necessity, we had to figure out some different ways to do that. And so I saw this thing years ago. It was actually like Apple, right? And it was like, hey man, here's Bono's playlist, and here, I could care less about Bono, but I know who he is. And when I looked on his playlist, he had some Michael Jackson, might have had some Tupac, and it just kind of blew me away in the sense that, right, here's this mega rock star, right? And this is to let you know how long ago it was. Bono ain't been a mega rock star for a long time, but you got all this different kind of music, and then you had him say why this makes sense to me, right? I almost look at it like, I don't know if you ever watch that old show. They used to, I think VH1, like Behind the Music, right? So I don't have to like Alabama, the country group, to hear Alabama's story, right? And that's how we kind of viewed it. You might not even like this person or know this person, but it's interesting to know what moves them, what gets them up in the morning, what do they work out to, right? And it tells you that there's so many more things in common, right, than different. And so and then the last thing is the thing I said before, everybody can participate. Everybody can participate. And that's a huge thing with our radio station. It's not the traditional ones that the same, 4 DJs, the same 3 rappers, right? Which they're dope and we feature them, but we want everybody to be able to play and everybody to be able to participate.
Yeah, good chance. Yeah. I like that. I can't wait to put together my playlist.
See?
You know what I'm saying?
I'm waiting on you. You never heard the whole rundown. Now you're like, okay, I need to be on that.
I mean, I'm anyway, they're gonna make this about me, Deloney. It's about you.
Yes, sir. Right.
I'm just teasing. Word. So what would be, I mean, if just spitballing, if say 5 years, if it rolled the way that you wanted to roll, what would be just something maybe that's not a reality now that would be like, man, it would be great to see that in the future with this.
Man, without going too far down the road, I'll tell you about something going on right now. So I'm working on a project at my regular job where we're working with a lot of the trades, right? There's builders, there's carpenters, there's plumbers, all these different folks, right? And so I've been working with them because what they're telling us is that, a lot of the plumbers and carpenters are retiring, right, over the next several years. But because this is Portland, Oregon, there's billions and billions of dollars already dedicated to projects over the next 20 years, right? They don't have enough people to fill those jobs, right? That's a fact, right? And so I've been working trying to get our people, our kids, our students, right, to start looking at that as a real option, right? So, we had a fair last month. It was, it was great participation. We had people come in, talk to the kids, talk to the young people, and start trying to link these people up. back to your question, where I want us to be in 5 or 6 years is a place that we can share that information right now. Did you know that there's more jobs than people? Did you know that, these guys are making $50, $60, $70 an hour? Did you know that, right, that like this is crazy. Did you know that you go to college, right, to pay somebody to train you versus, man, these carpenters will pay you as you get trained, right? And so that's the kind of information I need to get to our people fast and in a hurry, right? And so I think the Numberz is a great vehicle for that. It's a great path that it's another form of media that we can take advantage of. And for the longest time, right, I grew up in Portland when we had KBMS. I don't know if people remember that, but 1480. It was AM, but the best part about it was, it was on. If something was going on in the community, they talked about it, right? And then you call up, and this is Shaniqua, and I love you, Ray. I just want to dedicate a song to you. You know what I'm saying? It was really about the people, right? And it was real time. And so that would be my pie in the sky, is building us together through kind of an old fashioned media platform.
Why not? Well, it's a platform that it's not going away.
That's right.
And it has utility, and I think
right.
It's basically put like this. I would listen to the radio like in the car more if I knew, if that was what was there.
Facts.
What I mean? So instead of having to pick around and especially in this scene, I think speaking even to the point you brought up about your work experience, and as someone who has successfully sort of carved out a day-to-day work experience where I pretty much serve my community,
right.
my people.
Yeah, we are abnormal.
We're space people. We're space aliens.
Right.
So like, I thought there was people that are like, well, Portland, I don't know. And I'm like, well, I can dig it.
That is not my experience.
That's not. I'm with. Yeah,
I'm tired of y'all.
I'm with me all the time.
I'm tired.
I need a break. I need a nap. So, but I think that vehicle as a means to, like, what are our information channels? What are the places where we get information from a source that we have some affinity and some connection to, and it does really impact your experience. It impacts the way you feel about the community.
That's right.
Instead of just no shade to the local whoever, I don't know what the top 40 station is, but whoever they are, they got a national model and they're doing their thing.
And that's literally right? The music that they put on, somebody in New York at headquarters is saying, this is the music that you will play. This is when you will play it. This is, you know what I'm saying? And here's the 7 songs that you're going to make sure that they listen to over and over again. Now, you can use your own head about how sinister that could be if left in the wrong hands, right? And that's not us. It's 100% people of color making those decisions about what we play, when we play it, and how we play it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you. So, got 2 directions. One, I wanted to ask you maybe a question about leadership.
Okay.
And then I want to maybe ask you a little bit of sports question.
I always got to talk about leadership. Let's talk about sports.
All right, let's skip
Come on, man.
All right, man. All right, then.
Look, if we got time, we'll come back to leadership.
We'll come back to leadership. All right. So there's and I know you do coaching around several sports, actually.
I coached everything.
Coach everything.
Baseball, basketball, football, everything.
What is something that you see in coaching that you just feel is really problematic? That's just like, why are y'all doing that? Like, what's something that's been grinding your gears right these days? And there's a point. That's
a great question. So I've had the I guess the luck, the privilege of taking an AAU team from like 3rd grade. Right, just the babies. Yeah, going all the way up through high school. Right, I didn't coach as much as high school. Kind of stopped in 8th grade, but helped out here and there. But I've been able to see the process, I should say, from 3rd grade all the way up through 12th grade, and the whole goal with these programs is to get a college scholarship, and that's the goal of AAU basketball. Yeah. Right, and so what I've been able to see, man, is I'm telling you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And you get and say this in the most respectful way, but parents have some of the most lopsided views of what this is all about. Because, I'm telling you, there are 5th grade parents thinking that their kid isn't getting enough exposure, not getting, not playing at the right place. I'm like, it's fifth grade. It's fifth grade. No, there's no college coaches here. And so the biggest, I've been doing this so long, I got some quotes that just make so much sense. And I say this all the time. Listen, if you're playing a game, AAU, whatever, and there's no college coaches there, you're playing summer league, right? It's irrelevant basketball. Right. And there's nothing wrong with learning and skill, but thinking that somebody cares about your sixth graders, 25 points and 11 assists is silly. It makes no sense. It's not backed up by any fact. And so my son is a pretty good basketball player. Right. So he had to go through the process and he wound up getting a scholarship. Right. Well, through the process, I was able to talk to a lot of coaches, and I'm just that dude, right? I just got now that I got your ear, let me ask you this, right? You would be shocked at how many of them have no clue about what high school you went to. They have no clue about how where Jeff played Grant and Grant played Jeff, and then Lake Oswego. They don't know these schools. How it works nowadays is all done in the summer tournaments. Right, you don't go with your high school. You go with your club team, right? Because once you start talking to them, you realize they don't have budget. Yeah, they don't have budget, they don't have budget to fly around from city to city to watch one guy. What they do, let's take the Nike tour, right? There's 5 cities that they go to, that the Nike tour goes to. So we're not going to 40 different cities. We're going to go to these 5 cities, sit in the warehouse gym, and watch the best 500 kids play right in front of me. That's it. So when you get your shine, that's the opportunity to ball out, right? Because at some point you got to be able to play. Mm-hmm. But everything prior to that, I don't want to overemphasize, but it was irrelevant. I've seen guys that barely played on their high school team, but show out down at these tournaments, scholarship. Right. And that's the reality. And so I remember, this fall, end of the summer, talking to a lot of these coaches, right? And they, and I'd be always say, "Hey, thanks for coming. I'm glad you like ADs." They won state championship with Grant and Jeff, and they're who? we don't know none of that. Sounds good.
Did Adams ever play? Was Adams there too?
We saw him in Atlanta in the AAU, and that's how they do it, right? And so it's really sobering because so many of these parents are really trying to jockey and get into the right high school, not understanding that it doesn't mean that much. That if you're paying thousands of dollars, right, for a traveling team in the 7th grade, go get your money back. Right? Nobody's there. Nobody, unless you're LeBron Jr., nobody's there in 7th grade. Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating because a lot of these parents try to live through their kids, right? And, I understand. I mean, this is our big chance to make it. And so for a lot of them, they pour everything that they have behind that. And then you wind up with kids that just, I don't want to play anymore. This ain't fun for me. Right. You know what I'm saying?
I don't even enjoy the game.
This is a business.
And I'm not getting better.
Right.
Yeah. I've seen some kids that and
you
ain't getting better, B.
The 5'5" center, right? Sometimes stays 5'5", right? As a senior. It just happens. And so, slow down, have fun with it, let it, play itself out. But man, like we say, life has options. Slow down. Make sure you got some other opportunities.
Is there something just as other community members that we can do to sort of inoculate our peers, like to tap a parent on the shoulder and say, "Hey, man."
We it's funny you say that. So I've worked with some other coaches and tried a bunch of different things. We're actually in the process of building this co-op, right? It's a bunch of coaches and it's a bunch of community members, some dads, different things like that. But the whole idea was to really write a code of conduct for parents and coaches, right? Because there's people right now that they lurk in gyms, and I coach this team, and all I do is watch the other games and try to, he good, I want him. And so I go to this single mom that might not really be connected to and understand kind of the long game and say the right things, and I'm jumping teams, I'm going over here because they have better shoes, right? I mean, that's how they do it. And so back to your question about inoculating, right? We want to just have information, right? Like the whole big old long thing I went on around college recruitment doesn't happen in 6th grade. Sorry, it doesn't. Everybody don't know that. If you don't have somebody that's really been through this a couple times, that's new information, because everything you see on TV and different people telling you, well, he's got to be the best right now.
He's the best 7th grader on the planet.
He's ranked. You know what I'm saying? It's like it does none of that matters, right? But unfortunately, that information is not out there all the time, and so I think that's kind of one of the things that we're trying to work towards. We're trying to work towards some rules, even from coach to coach. Like, hey guys, we got to see each other in gyms week after week. Let's set some bylaws. Let's set some rules. We won't recruit each other's kids during this time period, right? Now, after the season, everybody can, do what you do and everything else. But let's be respectful of each other, right, during these time periods. Because, again, if that's okay for you, but it's not okay for me, you're the bad guy in my eye. Versus, like, no, that we just do things different. But if we set some rules, then we can all look and say, man, I got you. I'm going to sign it, say less. You know what I'm saying? I understand how you view this. Not exactly how I do it, but we have some bylaws that help us. And so that's some of the things that we're trying to build into the whole, young player basketball stuff that's going on in Portland.
Yeah, well, I think, to me, the overwhelming value of youth sports across type of sport, gender, whatever, is it's a great opportunity a lot of times for especially kids from certain communities to be with other people from their community in a space where that person is the authority and they're teaching you, and you can have some fun and like you can have these experiences. You can play kids from other neighborhoods, other parts of town you don't know that well, whatever. That is hard to do any other way, right? Yeah. So when you have access to like organized kids sports, it's a lot of fun, and it should be a great learning space. It should be a place where you can share information with the kids, and like that's always to me the biggest opportunity. It's fun, it's recreation, it's confidence, right? It's all those things, and I tell people all the time, if your coach isn't saying these things all the time, you might be in the wrong spot, because let's not forget. I mean, I love to start with the numbers, right? I mean, if you look at PIL basketball, for instance, man, 1 or 2 guys a year are getting full Division I scholarships, right? 1 or 2, just to be real. Sometimes 3. You know what I mean? And so all the drama and all the mess and all the I'm stealing this kid and I'm charging all this money and I'm traveling around. 3. I mean, so we probably need to change what the goal is. The goal shouldn't be, right, to get this scholarship. The goal should be to get some great confidence, to build up your college resume, right, to be in great shape, right? And back to how we do things here at work. But, man, at the end of the day, I also know that if you're working hard and practicing with somebody from 4 to 7 every day, there's also some things that you aren't doing. Right. You see what I'm saying? You can't get into too much
come on now.
Extra stuff.
So those are all the things that we should be pushing up, right? And then the rare kid, right? I think the numbers say that in the United States, 3% of kids, let's just take basketball, 3% will play after high school, right? 3%. 1% Division I, 1% Division II, 1% Division III. So for the absolute dream to get a D1, 1% of the kids playing high school basketball in the country will get a Division I scholarship. So that creates why, that should never be our goal then. Right? That can't be our goal. I don't want to do nothing where 99% of y'all are losers.
Right.
You know
we all losing.
Y'all ain't nothing. Right? So we got to change the goal and change the conversation about why we do this.
Word up, man. So I'm going to take you out on 2 things. I know you are let's just both of our respective teams in terms of the football are out of this. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Giants fan. I know you're a Broncos fan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're terrible.
It's ups and down cycles. You know what I mean? You get cycles, you go good.
And don't get it twisted. We just won a Super Bowl 2-3 years ago. We good.
As I like to remind, as a Giants fan, I like to remind the Cowboys fans, y'all ain't won. Y'all won 2 playoff games in
20 years.
20 years. So settle down.
Stop.
Every time y'all get a little. That's right. I'm hating on you.
They are the
Take
worst.
it.
Listen, and I'll say this. I'm okay actually with the Cowboys. I can't stand they fans. Yeah. Cowboy fans, you are the worst. You heard it here.
What is something that just with the social context and everything else with football, I've had an ambivalent relationship with football just in general because it takes a lot of your time if you start watching it too much.
Facts.
And I stepped away fully for the year. And this year I sort of at arm's length, who's winning, who's losing, not that big a deal. What is something that you think, is there any gesture or overture the league or the teams could make that could improve this dynamic?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I think the easiest one would be to give Colin Kaepernick a job, right? I think when you talk about your split, and I think about I wouldn't say a split, but more of a step away for a little bit, it really is based on race. Mm-hmm. I think like basketball, right? It's I don't know what the number is. Probably 85% us running around out there. Mm-hmm. But then when you turn around and look at the coaches, man, it's probably like 35-40% coaches, right? Yeah. It makes sense, right? We come up through the program and we some of the best ones to teach what we just right. And so I mean, in terms of the visibility, in terms of the stars, right? Basketball is kind of the model, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of LeBron steps out and takes stance. I mean, it's not always 100% correct, but he ain't scared to say it.
Yeah, right? he has a position and a perspective.
That's right.
And he's going to put it out there.
Football is probably the complete opposite, right? In basketball, you can get one player that's really, really good. He can change that franchise's trajectory for the next 10 years. Look at Cleveland, right? One guy, billions of dollars because of one guy. Football's not like that, right? Football is 11 guys on offense, 11 guys on defense, a punter, a kicker, right? So all of a sudden you start talking about 25 starters and specialists, right? So one guy is important, but not that damn important, right? And if you don't do what we tell you to do, we will get rid of you, no matter who you are. Even some of the, the quarterbacks are the top of the food chain, and the majority of them are white. Right. And they actually tell these brothers that's quarterbacks, hey, man, cut your facial hair. Right. You are our front line, our advertiser, our everything. Right. Mm-hmm. On top of all that, now I'm going to put a helmet on top of you. Right. So you could be an incredible player. I tell you that, Todd Gurley was probably the MVP of most fantasy football teams this year, right? I don't know how many touchdowns he had. 80% of the people would have a tough time pointing him out in the lineup. Yeah, I don't know what he looked like. I know
he
walk in
right now. I'd be like, it's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
That dude's big. What'd he do?
And they know that, right? They know that. And there's so many people that want those jobs, and they've done the math around commodities and which position is more important than the next position. And so our leverage in football is so bad that's why you see such a problem. Like, I mean, I was talking about the Cowboys, but I don't think the Cowboys have ever had a head coach or a offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator in their history, a black one, right? Head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, not a single one. Now, I haven't done the research. I'm in a chat and I'm always, tearing up these dudes. We stinging back and forth and everything else. But that's crazy, right? The representation is so lopsided when you talk about leadership versus the players, right? And so only in football would you see a situation like Colin Kaepernick, where this guy can play. Now, nobody's going to tell you he's, Joe Namath, but his stats would tell you that he should be on a roster. When you look at other people, it's like, come on, man.
He's worth let's bring him in and see what he got.
There are some absolute complete bums on rosters, right? And so the only answer is, man, racism, right? And a system where we have no leverage. And so it's problematic. It's not good. There was boycotts, there was different things, and I really don't know, because unfortunately the more we talk about it, the ratings keep going up. Yeah. So I will say that it's a comfortable relationship right now that we have with football.
Yeah, no, I you know what I'm saying? Like I walked the initial season. I said I'm just going to tap out.
Yeah,
which also turned out. I mean, I really like tapped out. Like I didn't know what the records was.
Right.
I didn't know the Eagles was winning, which I hate the Eagles, but I didn't know. I got to the end of the season. They're like, oh man, the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I was like, what? How did that happen?
Right.
Get out of here, man. Wonders never cease. And then you get to the piece though of, having a relationship with a commercial entity that has its own ambitions in life. It's sort of like, I think, a moving feature of living in America that we got to kind of wrestle with sometimes. And so I don't want to drag you too deep in on that.
It's uncomfortable,
yeah,
right? Because we don't have the answer. But ain't nobody talked about the boycott this year. I don't know what happened to that.
Yeah, well, some people tried to keep it rolling.
Right.
A lot of people were sort of like, well, I protested last year. This year, I'm trying to win my office pool.
Man, that was last year, man. I ain't even mad at that.
I'm moving on. So I'm gonna close this out with just one more question, man. Can you give me maybe a record or a movie that, looking back at it now, you like, maybe I was wrong about that album or that song. Ooh. You know what I'm saying? Something that you're like, man, that was cold when I got it. Now you're like,
I used to. So we had records. You know what I'm saying? We had records. So we had a record player upstairs, and the Jackson 5, and then there were the Jacksons. So I remember we had Michael Jackson Off the Wall, right? And so we always had it, and we knew it back and forth. We didn't have a lot, so we really listened to that. And then when Thriller came out, it was like, oh boy, right? And then he took off. Michael Jackson went on, did his thing. But I saw a documentary. I don't know why they did. It was incredible. You should look it up. It's Spike Lee did a documentary on the making of Off the Wall, right? Because it was in the point of he was going from the Jacksons and the Jackson 5 into his own solo career, and that was his first solo album. And they just talked about, man, they went almost song for song, showing the story about how and why and who produced it and everything else. Man, that after the documentary and you figure out and you realize how they made it, man, that album just shot right back to the top for me. It's so underappreciated. Oh, no. Right? The Quincy Jones at his peak, you know what I'm saying, with Michael Jackson is undefeated.
Yeah. No, I had to have a grown-up moment and decide. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Off the Wall is way better than Thriller.
It's better.
It's just better.
Fact. That there's no conversation. So I don't know how. So I think I was in fifth or sixth grade. I think when Thriller came out. I don't know, but the curl, the swag, the Billie Jean, all that stuff that was hot until you go back and the grown up loves Off the Wall.
Yes, word up, man.
Have you seen this?
No, I haven't seen the documentary. I'm at the
walk. Run, don't walk. Go get that.
I'm gonna go find
outstanding.
I'm gonna go find
outstanding.
Deloney,
yes,
thank you for sharing with me.
Of course,
I really appreciate it, and maybe we might get you back on for a more topical conversation. Maybe we can talk
anytime.
The '86 Super Bowl
anytime.
I don't know how you felt about it when the Giants put the beat down on the Broncos.
First and foremost,
I'm just saying.
So you got to remember, I was a Bronco fan all in high school. So though I think we went to three of 4. It was terrible. It was hard being a Bronco fan during high school. We was getting drugged by the Giants, drugged by Redskins, drugged by the Niners. These are all legendary teams, right? But we got that Mile High Salute, 98, 99. That's when we got it back. That's when we got it back.
Appreciate you.
Of course.
But again, as I say, thank you, for the work that you do in the community. I will, we'll find a place, and I will be working on that playlist for you. We talked about that. And I'll make sure also in the show notes and everything to have links so people can listen. Because you can listen on the internet. So even if you're not in Portland,
stream it anywhere.
You can get in there and get you a listen.
I was in Vegas listening to the Numberz.
See? It's the future.
Yes.
All right. Anything for the good of the order before I let us go?
Man, thank you, brother. You do a great job. Like I said, you're not some dude that's just jumping in here. This is what you do every day. And you're finding different ways to connect people, and that's what I'm about. So we appreciate you.
Word up. Well, appreciate you, Deloney. This has been the Ask Your Old Head podcast with Justice Raji. Peace. Thank you for listening to this rebroadcast of the Ask Your Old Head podcast with Justice Raji. Thank you again to my guest, Anthony Deloney. Thank you for listening. Please rate, subscribe, share, comment, all the above, and be well. Peace.